So let's look at these key considerations, right? Really from a statewide network all the way through local independent networks, through interconnected regional networks, there are generally themes of considerations that we have to account for on the business side. We've talked about this: partnerships, technology, the operator type, the network build. Are there economies of scale that we can take advantage of? And this is where our business students are going to be very important, because you'll understand, again, the more customers we can provide, the greater scale, the more partnerships we have, the more economy of scale we can take advantage in deploying the project. And then geographic target, geographic location is going to be very important as well, because there are going to be elements that will either add to the cost or take away from the cost, again, depending on where we are from a geographic standpoint. So step two, and this is where the students come involved, right? You're going to research those customers. So the information that you are going to provide the community, will help them understand who their customers are. Not only just the customers, the available offerings, and the overall general market structure of broadband services in their community. Factors for consideration include, demographics, age, education, employment, and income. Again, we provide a lot of the information through our tools. You'll have access to all of this information. You just need to, provide a summary of that demographic information for those particular communities that you're going to be working in. We also look at existing resources, right? Government assets, personnel resources and expertise, funding availability, right? We talked about community uses, for e-commerce, for education and health, for economic development, etc. And then you're going to look at it from the market standpoint, right? And we have tools that will help you assess what's going on in the market, and that includes existing service providers, their product offerings and pricing, and then the gaps in those service offerings between what they offer and what the community needs to deploy to address its needs in the community. And then finally, you're going to identify, are there any barriers to entry? Are there any elements that may hinder deployment? It may be cost. It may be legislative. It may be from a geographic standpoint in terms of where the community is located. Are there elements that hinder construction, right? So we'll look at those and help you walk through identifying those. And again, this all helps shape the business part of it, understanding our cost structure and revenue generation potential as well. So let's talk briefly about the identification of potential uses, users, or customers. Again, we've talked about this before. There are general 4 categories of use and users, right? Residential, right? That's generally a defined community, right? Multifamily residences, homes, businesses. So residential services that we're thinking about, we all know, that's service delivery directly to your home, right? Either through a direct connection, through wireless, you have it. I'm at home, I can work from home, I can, jump on a school platform, they're gaming, everything I want to do from home, I can do. We talked about institutional. Again, it could be local governments, it could be your schools and libraries, both from a K through 12 level, as well as institutions of higher education, our hospital and healthcare sites, our community centers, right? From a smart development or smart technology standpoint, we have smart cities, we have smart grids, we have smart agriculture. There are environmental concerns that deploy smart technology, our health, our water, and also the public Wi-Fi sites that you can set up that help augment the community's use of internet services. And then finally, from your business community, you're looking to understand and classify the needs of small businesses, large businesses. Are there business parks or technology parks that need to be connected? And then your utility services or your utility sector also can play a role in the broadband deployment as well. Again, this slide just looks at it in a different continuum again. So you're looking at in the interior circle, we're looking at the users, right? Residential, businesses, institutions, and the external circle are the uses, right? And these, circle around each other like the moon circles around the earth, right? It changes from time to time, right? Right now, coming out of COVID or going back into COVID, depending on your view, telemedicine is really big, right? We don't know, there are vulnerable people in our population that need telemedicine and telehealth services, right? Smart communities and smart agriculture, drastically reduce the cost, upfront costs in terms of operating farms and agriculture. Smart grid technology, again, bringing smart technology to our city centers and suburban and metropolitan areas, again, for the deployment of 5G and real-time information. Again, particularly in this age of COVID, really understanding and deploying technology that really help decision makers understand, where we are with respect to adherence to the public health and safety protocols. So all of this information, all of these uses is very important, and they have implications again on the business side, right? So typically, the community, we look at things, we just want it to be constructed, we want it built, we want it to work, but these are elements that go into a successful project implementation and deployment to make sure that both we're covering our costs from the service provider perspective. We're making money. Let's be honest, that's a key component to it. And again, that it's meeting the use and the needs of the community. So when we look at the market's operational elements, and this is really going to resonate with my business and economics students, we're looking at industry trends like network growth rates, right? Nationwide and regional trends, right? We're looking at fiber to the community or technology to the community sales, and then the development of smart cities, smart technology, right? That's where the industry is going. From the provider side, we're going to look at the services that are offered, the reliability of those services, the current market share of that particular provider or those providers, and then the target customer base, both existing and expanding. We look at it from a current demand standpoint, and then we'll estimate a 3 to 5 year subscribership, right? Estimating those 3 to 5 year subscribership rates helps us on the business side understand our costs, our revenue, our income, and again, how much money we can make if we're a network, if we're a service provider, if it's a municipal network, ensuring that, again, we're bringing in enough money to cover the cost of our network. We're also going to look at market fluctuation, particularly with factors with speed and capacity. So if you think back to the 101 module that we did that provided the broadband overview, we looked at factors like speed and capacity, right? It's really important because your needs right now may not be your needs 3 to 5 years from now. So again, we need to understand and make a decision on what's needed now versus the capacity and growth potential for the future. And then, as we talked about before, again, understanding our target customers, those residences, those businesses, the community, the organizations, and the smart uses that we could deploy. So again, if I'm in a rural area, right, smart agriculture is going to really resonate with the farms and agriculture sector in my community. If I'm in a more urban area or metropolitan area, right, smart city, 5G deployment, right, that's going to resonate with the residents and the businesses. So again, no matter where you are, again, there is a smart technology component, a smart technology use that's going to be vital in your business planning. So now let's look at step 3. So after we go through the first 2 steps, right, we're going to determine the future service offering. So this is where we really get down into the weeds in terms of matching exactly what the community needs with what the service providers can provide, right? So we're going to identify that customer demand, and that's going to allow our leaders to select the right service offering, determine that correct pricing structure, and then on the service provider side, it gives us an opportunity to forecast revenue and expenses, the operability of the network and the project. By doing so, we can forecast future service offerings. That gives a prediction for the community, the partners, and the funders. It demonstrates growth potential and it illustrates the risk, right? So we want to minimize the risk. We want to maximize the growth potential, the income, and the revenue. This information will be used to base the pricing structure on demand and the service offering, right? So this slide, look at the continuum between all of our various services. We have cost-based services where that price is going to be based on purely cost and estimated total return. We have a value-based structure where that price is going to be based on the value that the customers or the end users place on that product. We have a penetration rate or penetration structure where the services provided are priced competitively with market prices. So again, depending on who you're building to, who those customers are, what the demand is, that price is going to vary and it's going to match versus the demand of that particular community. And then we have a service-based approach where those services are offered generally to meet the community's goals and objectives. So again, four very different ways to base and value our pricing structure. But on the business side, again, it's all driven by customer demand and really understanding what those service and product service offerings are. So the next step, we're going to consider the requirements for implementation, right? So now we've done all the research, we've done the planning, we understand the demographics of the customer base and what the community needs. Now we have to start figuring out how we're going to build it, right? How we're going to execute and implement, right? We're looking at planning steps, we're looking at logistical steps, and obviously the finances to make it all happen. From the planning standpoint, the organizational structure, developing the project timelines, bringing all of those stakeholders together. Logistically, who's the staff that we need. We need to account for the operational costs, service purchasing and other goods and services. And then financials, we have to look at cost controls, financing options, right? Looking at all of those things together will help us make decisions regarding implementation and start to develop those plans and work for project execution. When considering the requirements for implementation, there are really generally three simple approaches, right? You're either going to encourage an existing provider to extend their network and provide service, right? You're going to work with a service provider in your community to expand their existing services, right? You're either working with the middle mile provider to expand to specific targeted customers or encouraging a last mile provider to include more homes and businesses in their service footprint, right? Either way, you're encouraging them to increase capacity, to increase speed, to increase bandwidth. Number two, you may run a network over an existing provider's network, right? Again, this is a particular type of network deployment where you're serving local government buildings or you're managing a network of regional facilities. There may be existing capacity and networks that already exist, and you enter into an agreement to run your network over another provider's facilities or their network infrastructure that's already in place. Or three, you're building or extending an entirely new network, right? I'm either encouraging a new market entrant to come into the community, or if you're a jurisdiction, we've decided to build it on our own. You participating in a partnership that owns and operates a network. I can interconnect to a network with other providers, and again, or I can just decide, we're going to build this ourselves. And again, from the business side, I still need to understand all of those operational cost and revenue components to be able to make the best decision for my community. So step 5, we're getting a little bit into the weeds here in terms of talking about the financial uses, use of pro formas, use of financial statements. I'm going to leave this slide here for your reference. But again, this is the financial information that you'll need to document and when you're working with your local service provider or if you decide to do it yourself, right? My pro forma usually includes detailed costs and expenses. It documents the financial flows. the contributions of all of our partners, the financial contributions of those partners, and then identifies potential cost savings. And we do that through an income statement, statement of cash flows, an operating balance sheet, and then ongoing analysis or analyses of those cost elements, both from an income statement standpoint as well as cost elements as you move forward through operational. Again, we don't expect you to understand all of this. We're just presenting this so that you understand that it's more than just, if I build it, they will come, right? There are business planning sides to this. There are people on both sides, on the service provider side and the community side. The numbers have to work. So we need to understand that, understand the business element, understand the business side of it, so we can continue to make really good, grounded decisions on how to move forward. So again, as I tailor my pro formas to the key network considerations, again, I'm ensuring that all of this information is documented in my income statement, my statement of cash flows, my balance sheet, and my outcome analyses. For my business students and accounting students, they're going to know the IRR and the net present value, the cost savings and community achievements, revenues that are needed to cover costs. Right, that really resonates with them. Doing inventory or cash accounts and customer accounts, understanding the debts that are owed both from financing or leasing of materials, of cost of land. So again, all of this is here just for your reference. Again, for you to understand that there are more business elements to it than just construction, connecting computers and the lights are on and everyone's happy. There's really a business and economic side to this, not only just to build it, but also to operate it and to make sure that the network is sustained as you move forward throughout the life cycle of the project. So let's talk about sustainability because that's really, really important. And a lot of our work, we've worked with communities across the country, particularly when you're dealing with either private investment or money from the federal government to build these projects. I think a lot more time and effort should be spent on sustainability because at some point that money, if it's government provided, can only be used for specific purposes to build the network. If it's private money, it's going to run out at some point. And so the network has to be sustainable. The project has to be sustainable at some point, X in time. And we'll go over that here shortly. For our sustainability evaluations, we're looking at it from the standpoint of revenue and expenses, right? We want to make sure that our revenue and expense information shows a sustainable plan, right? And we're relying on our community and our partners, and they are all interested in three main things, right? If I'm on the business side of the service provider, I'm interested in return on my investment. Like, when am I going to get my money back, right? From the community standpoint, we want a mitigation plan, right? We want to ensure that the taxpayer money that we are contributing to this project, if something goes wrong, there's a mitigation plan to ensure that the project will go on as planned. And then there are operational concerns. Who's going to operate and maintain the network? If there are outages, right? All of these things play into our sustainability evaluations. Over here on the right of the slide, we're looking at that interplay between our revenue and our cost savings with expenses. So these things are in flux. They change on a daily basis. Customer base, we want to add to the customer base. We want to understand that our price and service structure and make sure that's consistent. We want to have a good idea of our marketing and operational costs and keep those as low as we possibly can. When we're building, we want to ensure that we account for the equipment and construction costs and network maintenance as well. There's a lot of ongoing maintenance costs that we need to account for. Again, daily maintenance, and then, oh my God, something goes wrong. Someone cut this, tree down this line. There's unfortunately a hurricane or a wildfire that comes through. Either a man-made accident or an act of nature. Again, we have to ensure that we have the cost structure in our business model to ensure those repairs can be made and those ongoing network maintenance operation activities can occur. And then, just the general operational costs, right? It costs money to operate a network. It costs money from a people standpoint, from an equipment standpoint. There are derivative costs, in terms of power, in terms of land. So again, we have to understand all of those interactions and interplays and ensure that we're accounting for the sustainability of the project.